A warm welcome to the Heartfulness Wellness webinar. This is the 7th webinar of the series. Today, during the pandemic times of uncertainty, causing stress and affecting all the elements of wellness, most important being the physical element. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ayush Sattva Balarogya Sukha Prita Vivardaha Rasya Snigdha Sthira Hridaya Ahara Satvika Priyaha. Foods in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purifies one's existence, and gives strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Food also has a very social context attached to it. We connect with the people who are known and unknown to us over a cup of coffee or dinner or lunch. During the present times, this form of social connect is also affected. I have a panel of 2 experts who will help us understand how to cope up with this present situation and also talk about food, nutrition, facts, and myths related to health, ways of optimizing the pantry ingredients, reducing the wastage, and being compassionate to the community. Let me take this opportunity to introduce the 2 well-known established entrepreneurs in the industry of food and nutrition who will throw some light for us on the topic Eat Healthy, Be Healthy. Hena Nafis, a leading nutritionist, is a lifestyle consultant in Kolkata with a client base of more than 20,000 people from all over the world. Hena is deeply interested in pursuing public health and has engaged in many projects with multiple NGOs for the same. She is also a member of Indian Dietetic Association and American Dietetic Association. Hena has turned into a nutritional entrepreneur with her many successful good food ventures, like her Good Food Cafe cum Bakery, Eat Good Food. And our second speaker for the day is Archana Joshi, founder of Archana's Kitchen, India's leading food and recipe platform, which actively promotes healthy cooking and mindful eating. She was featured as a good Google entrepreneur on the web for the outstanding work of the digital space for food and was the inspiration for the first Google Chrome ad on national television. Archana is passionate about returning back to the basics with cooking at home and ensuring healthy body, mind, and soul. Her website empowers people to cook food easily with limited time, offering weekly meal plans, special dietary needs, and much more. What started out in her kitchen over decades ago has now grown into 10 million plus users monthly accessing her recipes and videos for good health. She says, all this just makes me believe that I'm doing today is all just worth it. So guys, I welcome you both today. And as we all know, the famous quote from Hippocrates, we are what we eat. We live in a fast-paced 21st century and rarely get opportunity to take a backseat and live a relaxed lifestyle. This pandemic has actually forced us, and it is a blessing in disguise where we get opportunity to cook, be with our family, and spend time at home reading books, enjoying music, and lifestyle which our ancestor lived. So I will start off my first question, which is for Hena. During this pandemic period of uncertainty and ambiguity, how do we as community look at the health in terms of food and nutrition during these testing times? And what care should one take so that we don't lose sight of our personal goals? Over to you, Hena.
Hi, everyone. I would like to first thank the Heartfulness Foundation for this opportunity. I would like to thank Snehal and Rishabh Kothari for having me on your show. Coming to what we should be doing during these difficult times, as far as nutrition is concerned, is simple. You don't really have to worry about anything, you know. you just have to keep calm. The first thing which I would want to point out to all of you is that we have to be beware of nutritional claims, because one needs to understand that there's no magical pill, potion, juice which will prevent, treat, or cure COVID-19, right? So it's okay if you're having some supplements or some vitamins, just for better health. You don't need to stop that. But people who have certain health conditions need to be careful, because there has been this claim that having mega doses of vitamin C will prevent COVID. Now, people who are on certain drugs, like ACE inhibitors or some kind of diuretics, shouldn't be having too much of vitamin C or lime water, because that can increase your potassium levels and can put you at risk. People who take medications like aldactone, or who are shouldn't, aldactone for hair loss and things like that, should be trying to avoid these kind of things, because they could put themselves at risk. Number two is that you need to stick to your health goals. It's very, very important that that you start looking for something, that you shouldn't start looking for something new. See, what a lot of people are doing is they're putting their health goals on hold. Like, say if you are trying to lose weight, you feel this is not the time to lose weight. I'm not going to lose weight anymore, or I'm not going to take care of my health anymore, because I just need to just stay put because I'm very anxious. Well, just don't do that. Just think that life is as normal as it could be, and stick to what your previous health goals were. Like, say if you're trying to keep your blood sugar under control, or if you were doing things to keep your hypertension under control, try and do that, because it's very, very important. Because if we see people with comorbid conditions like hypertension and diabetes are the ones who are at higher risk of diseases, right? So try and stick to your health goals. You don't have to put your goal, your targets on hold for weight loss, or for your diabetes, or for your high blood pressure. Just stick on. Another thing which I would really want to point out to you is avoid malnourishment. See, during these times of stress, a lot of people are either overeating because they're trying to get comfort from food, as well as there are some people out of stress, they're just not eating. They just don't feel like eating. They're losing their appetite. So this is a time to eat a balanced, healthy meal. Because if you don't do that, you will not get your essential minerals. Because your essential vitamins and your minerals, your macros for your carbohydrate intake, your protein, your fat is all essential. Because if you are healthy, if you eat healthy, your body will be able to fight the infection. Now, for instance, it has been seen that people who are excessively overweight and people who are on the other side of the spectrum, who are extremely underweight, are both at a higher risk of catching infections. So make sure that you don't overeat, neither you stop eating, and you should focus on eating healthy food. A lot of people, are trying to eat, they don't feel like cooking, so they buy a lot of food, and they, convenient food, packet of chips, ice creams, colas. They're just sitting and just, watching TV, watching the news, and having a lot of that. So that is something, any kind of binge eating, too much of junk eating should not be encouraged at all, for everyone, from the elders to the younger lot at home. Another thing I would want to point out is that, since we are feeling anxious, we are not, we are scared, we want to eat things which makes us happy. Now, nobody's saying that don't eat things which you like. Please do, but eat it in moderation, eat it mindfully, so that you don't overeat those. Well, the other thing which comes to mind is that we need to stay hydrated. A lot of us, because we are not going outdoors, we are mostly indoors, we are not exercising, we are not feeling thirsty. So drinking enough water and keeping yourself hydrated is key to keep the virus away from you. And it's just not about COVID, because this is the time of the year where there are a lot of other viral infections which are at play as well, right? So we need to be careful about that too. Hydrated, because the fluids help you flush out toxins and infections out of your body. Now, how much water? Because a lot of times you're confused how much water should I drink. Now, the best way to understand if you are hydrated or not is to watch the color of your urine. If it is too dark, that means that you're not drinking enough. And if it's too pale, that means you're drinking too much. So your urine should be straw colored, So that's how you would know whether you're hydrated or not. Another thing which a lot of people do when they are at home is have tea, coffee, colas, alcohol. Now, all these things are dehydrating to the body if you overconsume any of these. So you make sure you have your cup of tea or coffee, but it should not exceed 2 to 3 cups in a day. It is a very, very important thing because, talking about water, another thing important thing which comes to mind is lung health. Because, at this time, more than our immune system, our respiratory health is extremely important. Now, when you are dehydrated, your lungs actually also kind of get dehydrated. So to keep your lung functioning properly, you need to drink enough water. So make sure that you and your children are all drinking enough water. Watch out for your water intake.
True. Would you like to throw some light on myths and facts which people are getting scared and are doing the overdosage of certain ingredients in the diet or certain aspects of supplements in the diet, thinking that will help them to prevent COVID to come to them?
As I said in my earlier, at the beginning of my talk, is that there are so many claims which is going around. There are companies which are trying to sell a lot of supplements, potions, juices, all of that, right? Now, see, most of these things are not that harmful, but if you're going to take them in excess is where the harm comes in, right? Because they're not going to be that harmful. See, people who are habitual consumer of vitamin C, if they are consuming more vitamin C, they're okay because they are used to having that amount of vitamin C. But people who have suddenly started taking vitamin C and they're having dosage above 2 grams of vitamin C in a day, they are at risk of getting diarrhea, nausea. If you have, some people even are having above 5,000 milligrams. And if you do that, your chances of getting kidney stones increases. And as I also said, like a lot of people are trying to take vitamin C through lime water. They're cutting lime and putting hot water and drinking it throughout the day. Now, one needs to understand that lime is a very potent source of potassium. It's a very, very good source of potassium. Now, people who are on hypertensive drugs like ACE inhibitors or the ones who are taking thiazide diuretics like aldactone and stuff, they tend to retain potassium in the body. Now, if you have too much of lime water and if your potassium tends to go up, then you are at risk of arrhythmias, you increase heartbeats. So you have to be careful about that. There are women who take supplements for, medications such as aldactone for hair loss and hirsutism and so on. Too much of potassium, because people who have these medications are at risk of higher potassium anyway. So if they increase the intake of such kind of drinks, because a lot of these juices are rich in potassium, can actually increase your potassium and can put you at risk. And this is not the time to put your health at risk at all.
Absolutely.
So, especially people who are taking certain medications, before taking any of these things, need to consult the doctor or the dietitian before they even think of taking any such stuff.
So the key word would be moderation that's the need of the hour at this point.
It's always the need of the hour, moderation. When it comes to nutrition, you're allowed everything,
Right.
It's
Portion
about eating smart.
And moderation.
Yeah. Yes, of course.
So,
and the last point I wanted to make was about vitamin D, because a lot of people globally suffer from vitamin D deficiency, and there have been many research which has shown that vitamin D deficiency is linked to respiratory health. So if you have lower vitamin D, your respiratory health is also lowered. Your ability, your respiratory functions do get compromised. So a lot of people, are already on vitamin D supplements. Most people throughout the world, be it in tropical countries where it is sunny or be it in temperate countries, it's a global phenomenon. Like the way the virus has become emergency is also like a pandemic. So this is the time many people out of the anxiety have put their, they've forgotten about the vitamin D supplements. So please make sure that if you have deficiencies and you please take your weekly dosages or your daily dose, don't miss out on vitamin D supplements. It's extremely important to keep your vitamin D levels up at this point of time, because many of us are not even going outdoors. We're staying more inside,
True.
So we're not getting exposed to sunlight. And so make sure that you are exposing yourself to sunlight, even in your house. You have a small balcony or a terrace or a garden. Make sure that you spend some time in the sun. And the time when the sun has more vitamin D, the rays has more vitamin D is between 11 to 3 p.m., not early morning. So make sure that at that point of time, you can spend at least 10-15 minutes in the sun. That will really help you. Yeah. So this is what I would like to say about nutrition as a whole, because, I don't want to make life difficult for people. It's already, trying times for most of
Stressed
us.
and fierce,
Yeah.
right.
So,
Thank you
with
so
whatever
much.
you have, you just be happy with what you have in your pantry. Make sure that you have a portion of carbohydrate, protein, even fat, and a bit of fiber. If you have all of that, you have nothing to worry really.
Right. So coming back to the situation about the pandemic situation of utilizing it as a source of fear, or utilizing it as an opportunity to change our food and eating habits. Life is impossible without food, and the social distancing, quarantine, and lockdown just forced us with little choice of going out and doing anything, eating out or getting a takeout food. We are forced to cook food at home. We are forced to use the ingredients and the limited supply that we have. So I would like to ask you, Archana, how would you address this for our audience by sharing your insights and experience in regards to the same?
Yeah, thanks, Divya. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for the introduction. And Hena, lovely hearing what you had to say on what we have to be aware of and not sort of overindulge in certain things because, because everybody says you need to have vitamin C, and I think I completely agree with that, and that's quite important. And to the question that you asked me, I think. Very, very unique situation we're in right now with the pandemic, with we have children at home, who are not going to school. We have our, and women and working women and men, or non-working women and men. Everybody, entire household.
It's a new situation
right now. It's a very, very new situation, and all of us are trying to sort of adjust to each other and cope up. One of those important things. And when it comes to food, it can get very stressful because the entire family is at home. If you're living at home single, there are different challenges. And if you have a family at home, there are whole different challenges. And some of the things that I sort of think that we will be useful for us is about how we plan. Yes, the lockdown has caused a lot of stress and excitement, and you can say people are hoarding food, stocking up food when they don't know, or when they are not even aware as to how much of that food is going to be used. I've always been a planner, so I've till date not actually stocked up anything even when the lockdown came up, because I ensured that what is important is that you plan your weekly meals, right? So now going forward, that most of us are now got used to, adjusted to the lockdown. It's been close to about 2 weeks now. And we understand what the situation is. We understand some of the essentials. We're only getting essentials. And so when we understand that we're only getting essentials like the basic fruits, the basic vegetables, and the basic dals and salts, for example, and not anything fancy. So it is a time for us to actually rethink as to how can we sort of ensure that we plan our weekly meals better. We plan our, we have only that much storage in the refrigerator.
That's right.
Right. And if we overstock vegetables, then, they tend to get rotten and go waste. So one of the most important things is keeping in mind that we plan our weekly meals. It really helps to know that how much do we need to stock of, how much dals do we need, how much vegetables do we need. We don't really need to hoard in stock, and it's very, very important. Essentials will come and go. It is a time for us to actually become mindful, become minimalistic, in my opinion. Many affluent families or many homes, right? So we tend to sort of, because of a lot of consumerism, we tend to sort of hoard, like she said, buy a lot of Coke, buy a lot of chips, and we tend to sort of stock a lot of junk food. And maybe this is the time for us to go back to old ways and live a very, very mindful and minimalistic life, and get back to basics and appreciate the small things that we have in our lives, and appreciate just that simple dal with a tadka, or just appreciate a simple carrot sliced up, even if it's not with any masala, right? So it is
That's right.
absolutely okay. Enjoy the true colors of the vegetables. Enjoy the taste and juices of a particular vegetable that comes in. I think it is okay if we don't have elaborate meals, elaborate snacks. It is important to sort of become very,
Right.
very mindful. One of the
Especially
most,
the,
um,
especially if I may interrupt,
yeah,
Archana, the Facebook images,
yeah,
of
yeah.
so many people showing a huge platter over there, and
So I
it
think,
puts
yeah.
it
So,
puts so many other friends on a fix that, oh
so
my gosh, what
having
am I
having said
doing?
that, I want to bring in another light to it. So I run Archana's Kitchen, and I know people come to my website for cooking and getting recipes. I have seen 50%, 200% growth on my website, right? So the number of people
Absolutely.
actually wanting to get back into the kitchens to cook,
Right.
that's a very, very positive thing. So where people who have not got into the kitchen are getting into the kitchens. People who are cooking want to go back to their home foods, right? So going back to learning how to make paneer, going back to learn, not they probably went to cook only like some gourmet foods. Now they're going back into the kitchens to make a dal or a rasam or a sambar.
That's right.
And these are the vegetables that actually people are going to look at. And it's sort of very, 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 I'm very, very grateful for that. But another thing about talking about this pandemic is and the hoarding is all of us need to be mindful, right? So essential supplies are brought to us by very, very limited set of people in this lockdown, right? So it is important that we are mindful about how much we consume. We don't need to consume 3 to 4
Right.
things a day. So maybe if it's just one vegetable, one dal, and ensure that you either cook it in quantities that are what I do is to ensure that if I make like a dal and rasam and a sambar today, and if there is leftover rasam, then it goes to the next day, and maybe next day I would just make another vegetable because
That's
there
right.
is refrigeration for us. And we should not waste food. We should try to, as much as possible, to minimize the amount of resources and the essentials that we are depending upon the external resources to get,
That's right.
who are putting their lives at risk. So it
That's
is
true.
very, very important that we sort of become very mindful that it is just not about feeding ourselves. It's about thinking about the entire community and society who are actually on the road, from the farmers trying to get us the foods that we need. And how do we sort of become mindful, ensure that, of course, they're getting us the supplies, and we are struggling to get our own supplies at the right time
True.
because of our taste buds, which keep
That's right.
daunting us, right? So yeah.
With
So I
all
think
these points, Archana, actually the feeling of gratitude does
yes,
come in with
yes,
so many people putting themselves online for our sake. And
absolutely.
definitely you have covered beautifully how we can not overstock and be
Yeah,
empathetic with the community. I would
yes,
like to understand one more aspect of
yeah.
shopping at this point, because going
Mhm.
out in a supermarket is
Yeah,
itself a very
yeah,
fearful act, and
correct.
we will do it not more than once a week, right?
Yeah,
Where the
yeah.
supplies are limited. How can one keep track of how to keep the food hygiene, food
Yeah,
safety
yeah,
in today's
yeah.
times?
Um, yes. So one of the things that I am personally following is I'm a very basic, back to basics person always. Is to ensure that when you actually stock or shop for ingredients, try to stock up as many things that will have a longer shelf life. Like for example, it's good to eat your dals, proteins. So you get your fiber from chickpeas as well. You get also your proteins from chickpeas, which is Kabuli chana, and you get a lot of things from your dals, right? So dal, suji, rice, wheat, and try to stock up on these items when you go out for shopping, and they have a longer shelf life, right? And two is when you shop for vegetables, try to go in for vegetables which have a longer shelf life as well, from carrots to root vegetables, right? And this is the time when we can sort of get a lot more of those minerals which we need for our body, vitamins and minerals. Now, Hina would be able to sort of
Yeah,
emphasize
I was
more
just
on the nutrition aspect of these vegetables. They have a longer shelf life, from carrots, beetroot, sweet potatoes, raw bananas. These vegetables which are really staples. And when it comes to, if you do come across greens, then and you buy things that need to be consumed immediately, then you ensure that you finish the greens first. Plan it in such a way that you can sort of finish, we were having a discussion yesterday, Divya. So plan your meals in such a way that you finish the vegetables that get spoiled faster.
Right. That's right.
And another thing that I do to sort of store vegetables is to ensure that you wash them properly and with water. There is, just with good water, rinsing them in a bucket of water is good enough, and you don't need to put in any sort of chloric acid and lots of other things that people are doing. We just need to wash the vegetables with just good water and dry them, wrap them in a cloth, and then put them in a Ziploc or plastic and put it in the refrigerator. They will stay for a long time. And this goes for your greens as well. Don't wash the greens.
Absolutely.
Just dust them off the dust, remove the dust, wrap them in a cloth and put them in a Ziploc and plastic, and then refrigerate it, right? And so that they store well, and you don't sort of and they don't go wasted.
Right.
And one more important thing is being again mindful about the amount of garbage that we are disposing. And when it comes to fruits and vegetables, there's lots that we can do when it comes to fruits, especially vegetable skins. A lot of vegetable skins can be eaten. And that is something that I've been promoting actively in my community, is to not waste the vegetable skins, like from your ridge gourd to bottle gourd to carrots to beetroot, to all of them, right? You can saute them and make them into chutneys, right? Do not throw them, because we don't have enough workers to actually pick up the garbage every day, and there is limited people going out on the board, and we need to ensure that we are taking care of our environment by throwing in less garbage. Try to also avoid hoarding chips and biscuits, because they are plastic. Again, they are harmful to the environment because it goes into the landfills where there is no worker to help sort of clean that place for you.
Absolutely.
So it's quite important to avoid, foods that are processed where you're throwing away paper, junk, and also food skin as much as possible, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Archana. I would like to take your take as well, Hena, on the same topic. But along with it, I would address the second question, being in constraint of the time. So my second question for you would be, during this lockdown, we have limited supplies, as we have already discussed. Immobility is caused. We cannot move around. The stress levels are higher for many various reasons. Maybe you're being a judge with the kids, shouting around and screaming at each other, or dealing with a lot of excess amount of physical labor at home because you're not used to making 3 meals in a day because you're a working woman. And how do we enhance the quality of our life, taking this as an opportunity to evolve rather than getting bogged down and beaten up by?
Well, the first thing which comes to my mind when you talk about the stress which we are dealing with is, we anyway stressed out even during other times, aren't we?
That's true.
I mean, we always complaining.
Exactly.
So so this is nothing new really. I mean, we are used to being stressed, but of course there are some people who are distressed now. They're just not stressed out, they're feeling distressed because they're anxious, about contracting the virus, or if they, somebody's near one or dear one or a neighbor is suffering from it, and they are, there's panic. People are in panic mode right now. A lot of people are, even if they're trying not to. But I have a very clear and simple message to everyone that let's leave it to God. Time is the best healer. We'll all know the answers for it. But coming to stress, one thing which I must tell everyone is that if you are highly stressed out, or you feeling distressed or anxious, you are putting, you're putting pressure on your immune system. And this is not the time to weaken your immune system. See, many people, they're trying to be extra productive. I mean, as you said, like, a lot of people are sharing videos or pictures on social media that they're doing this, they're doing that, but it's not something which everybody can do. True. There's no competition. If somebody is doing, learning a language, a foreign language on social media, you don't have to do that. Be calm, don't try to be extra productive. Now, these are things which are actually causing more stress to a lot of people. They're trying to compare their lives with others.
Correct.
Right?
True.
Now, coming to food, a lot of us are not used to going to the kitchen every day, right? Because we are working, or we have especially in India, we have maids who come in who are not coming in anymore.
That's right.
Right? So a lot of women have to go to kitchen, they're grumbling about it, they're not liking it. And at the same time, they are hearing messages that we need to eat healthy.
That's right.
Right? So that's actually compounding their stress, because first they don't want to cook, and then they have to think about health also. So they just can't open something and just serve it to,
Right.
and people are even refraining from ordering out. Or, they don't want to order food because they're scared that, the package will bring in infection and all of that. So see, we need to have a very balanced approach. We don't have to get super healthy right now. We need to be practical about the choices which we are making. Now, there is a difference between something called processed food and packaged food. See, food technology is not there to ruin our lives. It is there to save our lives. It helps us feed billions of people throughout the world. Now, say you don't want to cook, or you don't have enough ingredients to cook. And when you go to the supermarket, you could probably go and buy some health bars. You don't have to make breakfast, or you don't have to have lunch. You can just open a protein bar or a meal replacement bar and have it. You can even get some meal replacements, or you can get some protein shakes, which you can just churn it up and have it. Fruits, again, fruits are in limited supply, and you know that fruits are healthy, they have vitamins and so on and so forth, and we need to keep our vitamin levels up. So you could possibly buy 100% orange juice, and have it.
Nuts and dry fruits.
Nuts and dry fruits too. No, I'm just talking about processed and packaged. I'm not talking about natural food. I mean food which is manufactured. So, we don't need to have over processed foods, things like, salamis and hot dogs and sausages, or even things which have a lot of preservatives. We definitely need to avoid that. But there are some foods which are properly packaged, they're not highly processed. So, look for things which are not highly processed, but they have been packaged. Even your breakfast cereal, some of them are actually much more healthier than sometimes eating. They're fortified with vitamins and minerals. So since you have limited supply of food, you rather focus on something which gives you your iron, your B vitamins and everything. A lot of these breakfast cereals contain a good amount of B vitamins. And B vitamins are extremely important during these times because it helps you cope with stress. Stress depletes B vitamins from the body. And if you have low B vitamins, stress can affect your organs. Now, you need to include food which is rich in B vitamins, B complex vitamins rather. Things like whole grains, nuts, seeds, milk, dairy, cheese. Even people who eat eggs or, who have a little bit of meat, like if people have liver, the lamb liver is a very good source of vitamin A. If you want, you could have that if you're not vegetarian. So I'm talking about things like, these things are always there. I mean, you can avail of them.
So basically,
but if you can't, then please go ahead and buy, some of these packaged foods, because sometimes, you can't look for for perfection all the time, right? So if you're diabetic and you want to have juices because you've not eaten your fruits, you dilute your fruit juices. You take half juice, half water.
That's a very good tip.
Yeah, so you can actually reduce the amount of sugar you're taking in. So these are things, try and make your life easy, because it's time to bond. A lot of times what is happening in a lot of homes, the people are really fighting with each other because, somebody feels that I'm doing all the work, you're not doing anything. So this is a time to bond. This is a time we are trying to reset our lives, is what I think. On a positive note, we are actually resetting ourselves. So this is a time where we should, as a family, bond together, cook together, help each other out, delegate work to each other, and make life simpler. Like as Archana also said, let's make simple things. This is not a time to make elaborate stuff. Yeah, and we have to be frugal, because the supply chain is breaking. You don't know how long are we going to be locked down for. So if you have stuff in your pantry, try and reserve it. If you have too much, give it out to people who don't have it. But don't hoard and don't overeat, because the first golden rule of healthy eating is not overeating. Because a lot of people, even when they they eat healthy, they overeat healthy food. Even that is wrong. Say if you have too much of if you have too much of fruits, it can increase your triglyceride levels, right? If you have too much of water, there's something called water intoxication, it can kill you also. So everything has to be, even if you're eating healthy, it has to be eaten in moderation, right?
So the point of being happy and considering that we be in moderation and utilize the packaged foods is essential at this point, along with fresh foods. If it is not available, we go for different options and take opportunities of changing our normal habits. What are the usual habits? We can take newer, healthier habits. You have shared some beautiful tips, Hina, over here. Thank you. And Archana, I would like to ask you last question. What at this point, social distancing is the key word in today's day. I would want to ask you, how can we do social distancing from junk, from our pantry, and not emotionally binge and regulate the frequency of the meals and the attitude towards the meals and have a balanced lifestyle?
I was actually planning to make murko today. No,
homemade.
yeah.
Homemade is always
no.
considered.
Let me. I like what Hina said. I very strongly believe in healthy eating is about eating mindfully, eating in the right portions, eating in the portions and not overeating, right? And most Indians, most of us, I grew up eating. I could at one point in time eat 3 times what more than anybody else, right? But I was still size 0, but that was a very younger me. But as you grow older, you need to start sort of changing your habits about how much you eat, how many rotis you eat, how much portions of rice you eat, right? So
Right.
it's important to be very, very mindful about how much of food that goes into our body. For example, it is important to be eating the foods that we like as well. But like, for example, if I were to eat a biscuit with my chai, for example, and I do, or something with my chai, I do like to have something. What I do is to have a very, very small plate cup, a small katori or a plate cup or whatever, and just put 1 biscuit or half a biscuit, and I mindfully bite it little by little. And so that way I'm not sort of making myself feel void of not having a biscuit with my chai or a murukku with my chai, for that example, for that matter. But I'm happy. It takes a little bit of training, and I think that's very important. And it's all about mindful eating. It's about being mindful about how many samosas you're eating, or how many jalebis you're eating, how much of mixture, that bhujia that you take. You cannot stop people from eating these things, but what we can do is to tell them, be mindful about it. If you want to eat bhujia, take a very small portion, like a tablespoon of bhujia, put it in a plate, and don't just cup your hands and just put like a modi or a bhujia in your mouth. Take a few strands and put it in your mouth, and then eat it slowly, mindfully, and you'll slowly, over a period of time, understand how this developing this sort of mindful eating is actually very good for your body, because the gut is sending the signals to the mind of the satiation to the mind, right? And that's extremely important. That because before in usual times, we sort of just end up eating a big bale or a jalmuri, and then before we know, and we're probably full after we finish the whole thing, like over full. But while we're eating, we're never full, right? So, and that's
right.
because there's a connection between the gut to the mind, which is completely stopped.
Time lapse.
Time lapse, exactly. So I think that's what is important. So whatever we do, we need to slow down, and we need to be mindful. We need to take them in the right small portions and feel satiated and happy. And that's extremely important. And eat a chocolate, but just take a bite of it, eat it slowly, right? So, and that's,
Relish
I
it.
think, you relish it. Be mindful, and we don't have to stuff ourselves. Be mindful.
That's right.
Slow down, slow down, slow down. Keep telling. I think this is the time for us to slow down, as she says. Hina rightly mentioned, we don't have to pack our day with activities. We can slow it down, and we can pick up an activity at a time, but slow it down. Even if it comes to eating, slow it down, right? And slow it down with your family, right? And I think that's very important. The moment you remove the gadgets from your table, the moment you not eat in front of the TV, the moment you're not sitting and watching Netflix and eating, and these are the things that sort of play a vital role in helping us slow down as well. Brings you into the present, brings you into the food that goes into your body, makes your family, who's sort of as well, understand what are the different tastes. Discussing about the food that's getting made. I mean, there's so much of conversations that we can bring to a table by eating mindfully. by eating slowly without distractions. And I think that's very, very important now. We've enough screen time because of lockdown. And to
That's
get
right.
rid of the screen time, it is important that at least at meal times, let us just close all the screens and just be together, either with yourself or with the family, right? So I think that's important. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Archana, for such an insightful and beautiful information and tips given to us on this topic. And I would like to wrap up now with one last thought, which is heartful eating, and which is nothing but connecting ourselves in our heart, filling ourselves with prayer and love, and then having gratitude towards the food, how it has reached to our table. And beautifully, it is put by our founder of the mission, Sri Ramchandra Ji Maharaj of Shahjahanpur. Be happy to eat in constant divine thought, whatever you get, with due regard to honest and pious earning. So at this point, I thank each and everyone out there to help get us food on our table. May it be delivery people, may it be farmers, may it be grocery shop owners. All of them are going out of the way and getting united at this time without having any competition of earning more and being selfless and helping each other. And of course, at this time of fear and stress for all us humans, somebody is healing itself, and that's Mother Nature. And less pollution, more and more of birds and animals out there enjoying. We would like to thank Mother Nature to give us this opportunity of relishing and enjoying whatever we get in regards to food. So thank you both, Hena and Archana, for such a lovely session, and we look forward to having more in future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.